Hey everyone, how you doing? We are here in LA. It is Tuesday afternoon. I'm getting ready to a flight to Australia. I'm sitting here for a second interview, a little bit of a weird interview. I'm actually on the other side of the table. I'm here with Baruch Cohen of Attorneys in Defense of Israel.
American Trial Attorneys in Defense of Israel.
American Trial Attorneys in Defense of Israel. For those of you who don't know who he is, you definitely got to follow him. Here's the card right there. And the website is
attorneysdefendingisrael.blogspot.com.
So what happened was, and first I really want everyone to interview this. I will not do this again. I'm telling you right now. To reciprocate and to come back, Baruch wanted to interview me in terms of my experiences, and I've never been on the other side of the table, so this is an interesting experience. And excuse me for saying so, he warned that he's going to dig deep. There are certain things that a soldier does not reveal, both for security reasons, but more for emotional reasons. And Baruch said he wants to interview me and dig deep, so here goes nothing. So Baruch, thank you for having me in your office.
Hey Ari, I'm so glad you're here. Very excited. I heard you speak at Yavne during Shal Shudas. Your presentation was gut-wrenching. It was compelling. But it left me a little hungry, and I wanted to probe a little more as a trial attorney. You're not in a deposition. I'm not going to swear you in. I'm not going to cross-examine you, but I did take some notes, and I'd like to ask you some questions to elaborate a little about your experience.
So before you do, I just want to let everyone know, first of all, welcome everyone. Jeff, how you doing? Please do share this. I don't do this often, and there's a reason why I don't do this often. You'll probably see at this interview. He's going to probe into certain things. He warned me, and I'm happy to talk about this once, and I probably won't do it again. But please do share this out there. And I want to just remind everyone before we get to it that everything that I do, everything that I do is for the soldiers. We're going to talk about the truck that I put up above, but I'm really asking everyone who's watching this, first of all, share it out there, invite your friends.
Share.
And the link that I put up above is really something that's important to me. So when we're done with the video, stay here. Please do hit that link and see what we're doing for the soldiers. And I really would enjoy everyone's help and whatever you can do, whether it's donate a little bit or a lot of funds to that link above. Please do join us in saying thank you to the IDF soldiers. All right, I'm giving it over to you, Baruch. Here goes nothing.
All right, Ari. First of all, if you're not comfortable answering any question, it might be sensitive, it might be IDF intel, it might be personal family issues. Feel free to just say, hey, don't go there, and we'll address a different issue. I want to compliment you on your courage in stepping into the
lion's den,
lion's den or the boxing ring with me. But it shows you're confident about who you are and what you represent and what you're passionate about. My style might be a little, I like asking good questions, and sometimes I might interrupt when I sense that it's the right nugget, the right moment. Roll with my punch. It's okay.
Go for it.
Okay, typically when I think of IDF soldiers, I think of secular, not religious soldiers. The IDF particularly, I don't particularly see to be a religious institution. I know there's Nachal Haredi. You come into Los Angeles, your tzitzis are out, your yarmulke is out, you're a rabbi, you daven with fire, you're representing the IDF. Could you just give a few comments about your brand of zealous advocacy for Israel in connection with your orthodoxy?
So you can't put me in a box. I refuse to be put in a box. And I fervently refuse to be put in a box. I would say that when you say the IDF is not a religious institution, I would disagree with you. Even the guys not wearing kippahs and not doing things. The IDF is a religious institution because without God we cannot survive. We cannot win the wars that we won without God. End of story. I will tell you that in wars, my friends in the army, most are not religious. They're really not. And I wouldn't say not religious. They're not. I don't like using the not religious.
Observant?
I don't like using the words because they're all traditional.
You don't like the labels?
I don't like the labels at all. I really don't. And my friends are my friends, and we would jump on grenades for each other. So I don't like that kind of language. I would say they're all Jews. Period. End of story. End of discussion. I do believe the IDF is a religious institution. We're representing the Jewish people and defending the state of Israel. The reason why I joined the army was the idea of a Jew defending Jews in the land of Israel is a historical oasis. So that definition I don't like. So I do believe it's a religious institution. Look, I believe that the Jewish nation is a miraculous thing. I think that we survived, thick and thin. And it's really, we're the Romans, we're the Assyrians, we're the Nazis, we're the Spanish, we're here. we're witness to the miracles of God and miracles of Judaism. So we are representing Judaism. And whether the guy wears a kippah or not, I really just don't care. You know, I've met people in the army who don't wear kippahs, and they're more religious than, you know, some people wear kippahs. It's spirituality, and I'm connected up to it. When I daven, you know, we've lost a little bit of davening. In other words, davening is really meditation. And through my experiences and through my trials and tribulations, which aren't so bad. My grandmother had bad trials and tribulations in Auschwitz.
We'll get to your grandmother in a second. We'll get to the grandmother.
I was lucky. I was lived in, and so...
Do you feel that your experiences in the IDF has increased your connection to God?
In an infinite way.
Please elaborate.
Look, we have 6 million Jews in Israel. We have 450 million Muslims around us who, let's say, don't like us. There's no question in my mind that I carry the big gun, you know, and I carry the big missile, and we're in the IDF, you know, uniforms. We could not survive without God. End of story. So our survival and our success, you know, it deepens my faith in a Kadosh Baruch Hu and God and Judaism more than anything else. And I live in a generation that is just, we're blessed. We're you know, it's miraculous. It really, 2,000 years to believe that. So yeah, you know, my depth in spirituality and religion and Judaism and Kadosh Baruch Hu and God is very deep. And not because I'm a rabbi, just because we're living in such a fortunate generation. Yeah, you got to say thank you to Kadosh Baruch Hu when you daven. You say Modeh Ani Lefanecha in the morning. Thank God that I'm alive. I understand that, and the boys and the men and the women in the IDF understand that. You know, we've been through thick and thin, so it deepens my faith to levels that I cannot even describe.
Now, you live in a city called Efrat.
Right.
Now, how do you respond when people call it the West Bank? I particularly call it Yehuda and Shomron. How do you feel when it's being labeled and characterized as the West Bank?
So I traveled around the world also speaking about Israel, not only with fundraising. And I find that the world has adapted and adopted lies. And so the West Bank, for those who don't understand, I want to explain this. You have the Jordan River, right here on the eastern side of Israel. You have the Mediterranean on the western side of Israel. The West Bank is the West Bank of the Jordan River. It is a code word for the Arabs to destroy Israel. The West Bank is Israel.
Right.
In other words, Bethlehem, where I live next to, Bethlehem, is not on the West Bank, but they call it the West Bank. Because the West Bank means all of Israel. We're on the West Bank of the Jordan River. Absolutely ridiculous, you know, words. It's Judea and Samaria. They don't like saying that because if you say Judea, you can't really say that Jews don't belong in Judea. Let me Judea. Right. You know, it's a little difficult. So yeah, the West Bank, you know, I really don't like that name. And,
now, in addition to your involvement in the IDF, you are also involved on some level in the security and the safety of your community of Efrat, correct?
Right. So, not me. My team, my people, you know, we're on the first alert. I would call it the anti-terrorist team, which is we're really training day in and day out to make sure terrorists do not reach civilians. It's totally volunteer. There's no money, there's no fame, there's no nothing, and I don't care. We're there to make sure the terrorists do not reach the civilians. You know, I can tell you if you want to hear it, you know, often Friday night I'm called out, you know, with suspected infiltration. Sometimes we actually caught terrorists. You know, and the problem is we're paramilitary. Our uniforms and our guns are from the IDF. Everything else is private. So, you know, I'm one of the fighters there who we get called out, you know, Friday nights or Saturday nights or holidays. Simchat Torah, the holiday we had right after Sukkot, we were called out the night of Simchat Torah in the morning. We danced with the Torah all day. We were called out the night before. We were out all night long till 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we go to shul. We go to synagogue, you know, we were out all night long. Nobody knew about it. And, you know, we're not looking for any fame.
Statistically, without going into details, in the last year, in your community, there were how many attempted infiltrations?
6. Not only in my community, in the area, but 6 times we were called out. And that's not including the false alarms. In other words, we're called false alarms. We're out all night. But unfortunately, I'll give a perfect example. In Efrat, 7 months ago, we were called out and we were searching. There was a terrorist in Efrat. And again, you have to understand, we leave our families. I make Kiddush on Friday night and we get called out. That's it. Everything stops. We were searching for this terrorist for 6 hours. We don't have night vision, which again, we have a campaign to raise that. It's like $4,000 a pop. It's expensive, you know, equipment. We were searching for the terrorists for 6 hours. We did not find them. The army came in. We're there first. And the army comes in and they say, okay, guys, go home. We went home. The Arab jumped out of a bush and stabbed the soldier in the back. And this happened 7 months ago. So again, we were upset that we weren't there to protect the soldier and to deal with this terrorist, but we didn't have night vision. So But again, we're called out. And the funny thing is, in America, you have the Marines. They're professional soldiers. I'm not a professional soldier. I'm a Jew living in Israel. You know, I work in education, and I work with my organization that I do. But when the walkie-talkie sounds and we're called out, we're soldiers, and our security and our safety is put in the back seat completely.
Now, you are here for standing together.
Right.
Right. But I do notice from time to time on Facebook, you're in military uniform, and you're stationed somewhere, and you're posting from in a place of safety, I guess.
Of course.
I'm assuming from a place of safety.
Right.
So
I wouldn't do otherwise.
how often are you in the Army? And what is the circumstance that's bringing you back and forth into the Army?
So to tell you the truth, I feel a little bit uncomfortable when I'm out of uniform. My soul, my yearning to protect, not mine, soldiers all throughout Israel. You know, we like to do that. It's our honor to do so. So I'm in a unit, a paratroopers unit now, and we're called out between everything 15 to 45 days a year. You know, if you're ever at home, my wife says, "Oh, you got a draft," and she knows I'm going to smile because it's something I want to do. It's something I want to go and do. And it's physically challenging as I'm getting older. I'm around 26 now. And it's physically challenging to do. I smile and I go. So around 30 to 45 days has been the average over the last, I would say, years. The truth of the matter is, and I'll tell this, and I'm not complaining, over the last several years, I'll take 10 decade, every week planned a vacation during the summer, and every year I got called out to Miluim, you know.
So what is Miluim? Miluim is reserve duty?
Right. So
you're not a draft dodger. You take it on. You take it responsibility.
Not only do I take it on, I can't wait till it comes in. I feel awkward out of uniform. I really want to be there. If something happens in Israel and I'm not there, I'm like, why couldn't I be there? I could have stopped it. You know, it's really.
Okay, so let's explore that for a second. You're home. It's Shabbos. You're making Kiddush, and you get that phone call where you're being, I guess, summoned. I don't know if the right word is.
So I'll tell you a funny story.
And what if it's the Southern Lebanon? Like, what is?
All right, so let's differentiate. The first responders anti-terrorist team is local, and then we have the Army, which is national. So, for instance, Lebanon War, we were called out. I was running a day camp. I was with my 3 kids in camp, and you know the walkie-talkies and the radio went off, and I pulled my 3 kids into my car, and we were off to Lebanon. We weren't off to Lebanon. I was. I went home, packed up my stuff, said goodbye to my kids, you know, my wife, of course.
Do I even ask you what that was like, or are you comfortable telling me what it was like to wish your kids well? You're going off to battle?
So 2006, I was called out. I was in camp. I was a camp director, and I got the call, and I called my 3 kids. We were right for pool time. You have to understand, it was boiling hot July, and I was a camp director. For those
in your bathing suit?
I was in shorts, my t-shirt, my tzitzit over my shirt, you know, my clipboard, the whistle. All those in America know what a camp director is like. And I get the call, and 3 out of my 4 children at the time, my youngest was 3 months old. Said, guys, we got to go. And it's like, oh, come on, it's pool time. And can you imagine explaining to your kids, carefree-go-lucky camp director, daddy's going off to war? It's like, boom, you know. So we drove home like an Israeli. I got home. And, you know, I packed my bags and saying goodbye to my kids and my wife. I gave my wife a hug. And my kids, I give them a bracha like we do on Friday night. And their hands are shaking because you don't come home from war sometimes. It's just the reality of things.
Right.
So it was Wednesday. But, you know, you give your kids a bracha, it might be the last time. And you know that. And my wife is really, really cool. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my wife. And
tell me about your wife for a second. Tell me about her strength that she's able to maintain a household while Abba is away, you know, fighting Hezbollah.
I'm not fighting Hezbollah. I get called out. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know. My wife is amazing. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do without her. You know, if she wouldn't allow me to go to Miluim every year, if she wouldn't say, all right, go out, you know, we know what you're doing, I'd be in big trouble. Like, I don't know, what would I do?
How do your kids react to it when you got the call?
So my oldest kids, my daughters who are older, and my son who's 16 and a half, he just went into his first draft, they know what daddy, you know, they're proud of it. They know that their friends know it. You know, they say, your Abba is so cool and this and that, and I'm not looking for the coolness. But they know what I do and they're proud of it. My youngest son, Natan, who's 11 now, he gets a little bit nervous. When I'm called out Friday night, he doesn't go to sleep. You know, and I come back from wherever I came back from, and you know, I go into his bed, and I say, Natan, I'm home, Daddy's okay, and he's scared. But you know, it's something that it's a team effort at home. It's not horrible. They're not living in fear and anything else, but it certainly takes certain level of strength at home. They know when Daddy's called out, I'm called out. Often before I go out to my reserves, I take a picture of the family, and they're smiling. But the problem is, I'm in the Army, 45 days a year. Then I'm coming to America 3 to 4 times a year. I'm going to Australia tonight.
They're used to you being away, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Billy Joel, the song The Stranger. I come home to a woman who doesn't recognize me. That's not true. but it's... My wife said to girls who were over for one Shabbat, this was an interesting story. There were girls in my house, and they said, what about going to the Army, not going to the Army? Maybe God will take care of everything if I just learn. And I got called out. And I was gone for an hour and a half on Friday night, and I came back, and the girls asked my wife, how do you handle this? And I spoke to my wife that night, and I said, how do you handle this, honey? And she said, you know what? Life is not a time clock. It's about how you fill up life, which is, it's true, but I was surprised to hear my wife say that.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned earlier on Shabbos that you were in southern Lebanon, and it was an extremely challenging experience for you. For
all of the idea of soldiers.
For all of the idea of soldiers.
I mean that, people talk about heroism, and I really am allergic to that word. Not because I think I am or I'm not. I'm not. The heroes are not, or Barry, the heroes are not here to accept the compliments. I really do not like that word. It was challenging. Again, you have to remember, we're not professional soldiers. We're husbands, and we're boyfriends and sons, and your life stops and you go out to war, and it's
well, Rabbi Einhorn did call you a hero on Shabbos, and you resist. There was some pushback on your part.
I don't like it. I'm offended by it. The heroes are not here to accept the compliments. They're just not. I don't want to hear it.
I got it.
My friend Yeshua is a hero. He's dead. I'm not interested.
All right. Since you mentioned Yehoshua, tell me about what happened to your friend Yehoshua, and if you don't mind, how it impacted you.
So this is 24 years ago, and it seems like yesterday, and it's extremely painful. It really is, something that I have a hard time talking about. Yehoshua Friedberg was a Canadian guy from Montreal. He volunteered. Friedberg.
Okay.
He volunteered for the Army 24 years ago. He was 24 years old. In fact, this year is the first year that he's dead more than he was alive. It's 24 years ago, and he shared that special, we had a very big weapon. He was a tremendously strong guy, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. He made Aliyah, came to Israel in 1991. When everyone was running away during the first Gulf War, he made Aliyah, and he was interviewed on the radio, and the radio announcer says to him, I don't understand this war here. You live in Montreal with a family and business. Why are you coming here? And his sentence that he said to the news was, when your house is on fire, you don't run away. You get the water and put out your fire. This is my home. And
UPS guys here. Keep talking.
All right, I'll keep talking meanwhile until Baruch comes back. He was in the Army with me in 1992 and 1993, Purim time. It's, the officers came into the tent and said, where is Yoshua? And I said, look, he went for officer's course. He was chosen. And he went out of the base. He was engaged at the time, and they said, I said, well, I don't know where he is. So we called him, his fiancee, Karen, at the time. He said, Karen, where's Yoshua? And he said, he left already, back to the base. It was Purim. We went on search parties for 3 days, and unfortunately, our medic found him face down in the mud, shot point blank 4 times in the heart, and thrown off the side of the road like a piece of meat. When we found him,
in his uniform?
Well, he was stripped down a little bit. His gun was, not there, and we jumped on him like we were pounding his chest. Thought he was
thinking he would be alive.
He was killed already for a couple of days. He was laying there in the mud for a couple of days. Unfortunately, the terrorists were found, but that horrific day in 1993 was the day that all of us died that day.
Now, why do you single him out of all of your IDF colleagues and fellow soldiers? Was there something unique about him that?
First, we worked together on the same weapon. We were like really partners on that weapon, and it was my first entrance into that kind of.
You mentioned earlier that you would be prepared to jump on a grenade for your fellow Chayal in the Army. Was this the type of camaraderie and friendship you had with him?
Well, we all have this camaraderie. It's I cannot describe to people from the outside. You talk about your brothers and sisters, it doesn't come close. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't come close. There's Roy Klein, famous name.
Yes.
And again, father, children. Screamed the Shema Yisrael, Hero Israel, and jumped on a grenade to save his whole unit. we don't say we're willing to do that because when you're in the shoes, and whether you do it or not is a different decision.
Does it make a difference if it's an American who comes and serves the IDF or an Israeli who's in your unit? It makes no difference once you're in the unit.
Everything disappears. Your socioeconomic situation disappears.
Religion?
Your religious disappears. Your Sephardic, it just doesn't matter anymore.
It's a band of brothers.
But you have to understand, we're Jews. Now, there are Druze Arabs who are in the army who are fantastic soldiers, so the band does grow a little broader, but you're together there fighting for the state of Israel, for the Jewish nation. It just disappears. It disappears. And by the way, I have left-wingers in my unit. Can you imagine me, right? It disappears. It disappears, and it's...
Now, when you were in southern Lebanon, you were under attack. You mentioned on Shabbos that you were in an apple orchard, and there was something profound that happened to you at that in that skirmish. You were under fire, and why don't you take over from that point of what it was like to be under fire?
So we were many kilometers in. I don't know exactly how much it was. It was deep in Lebanon. And we were hunting at an apple orchard. It was dark outside, but we didn't know when the sun would come up. So we put on our tefillin, we dive in there, Havinenu, the short Shemona Esrei you say when you're in emergency. And we had they tell us that there's an area full of terrorists. We have to go out and so on and so forth. So the officers went out and the guys went out and they were hit by missile fire and gunfire and
everything.
The orchard was being bombed as well. So we took off our knapsacks in the orchard. They were destroyed. Dudu, I hope you won't be upset mentioning your name. The guy in my unit, he had a kid a week and a half before. He had a son. He had a bris. Yeah, he gave his son a circumcision the week before, and he came to Lebanon. He could have stayed out. He came to Lebanon with us, and his flak jacket, I think it's called in English, the collar was completely severed from back to neck, everything by a piece of shrapnel. I mean, it was pure miracle. We got out of there with the skin of our teeth. And here's the thing, for those of you watching who don't understand this, when you're in action, when you're in war, and I'm not talking about me, every soldier who's in war understands what I'm talking about. You're not thinking about what you're doing. It's not like, well, should I go and get him out of the line of fire? Should I not go and get him out of the line of fire? It's surreal. There's no thought process. Your brother's either getting shot at, you're going to go and pull him back. And so you go. It hits you when you get home. It hits you like a bomb when you get home. You don't understand it when you're there.
Are you on automatic pilot when you're out there? Training?
Yes. No, yes and no. Like, you're careful. You don't want to get killed.
Sure.
But if in the Torah it talks about that a man who's fearful cannot go out to war. And you learn how you say fearful of sins and this and that. I have a different outlook on that now. Fearful means if you're not willing to go out there and take care of business right then and there, do not go. You're putting your friends in danger. Mm-hmm. So I remember the second before I crossed the border and the second afterwards. I wrote a diary before we went into Lebanon, and scary stuff. I never wrote diaries in my life. I'm not that type of guy. But I wrote it, and it's in Hebrew, and I wrote a prayer, and I said, Kadosh Baruch God.
You wrote to God.
Yeah, I said, if this is my time, I'm, like the King David who faced Goliath, and I'm proud to be part of the IDF and protecting Am Yisrael, protecting Eretz Yisrael, and the thing that scares me more than anything else, and again, I want to live to 120, see my great-great-grandchildren. Don't think I have any kind of death wish. What scares me, because I've seen this with Yeshua's family, and Herb, I'm sorry for mentioning this if I'm embarrassing you. I've seen it with other guys who were killed. Families are they're ripped apart. I mean, you can imagine, for those of you watching, you have your child, and Yeshua was a firstborn. He was an all-star and everything. And Shabbat comes along after he's killed. And
the empty chair.
The empty chair. And just, it gives me chills thinking about it. More than anything else scares the family.
I see.
You're
not worried about yourself. You're worried about the impact on your family.
Listen, I hate to say this, and again, I want to live to 120. I have no death wish.
God willing.
Life is, my wife said this to girls who were in my house. Life is not a stopwatch.
Right. It's
about what you do with your life. And for me, fill about quality, not quantity. And.
Now, you're under fire in southern Lebanon, and you said that Hezbollah is sending everything out at you. Was there any human rights violations that you observed as you're being under fire?
This is what kills me, and this is why I do Israel advocacy. Not because, Israel, blue and white. I know the facts. And what kills me is that we're out there walking by foot into civilian areas, not to bomb from the sky to, God forbid, kill any civilians, which we don't want to do. And they're firing at people who are evacuating the injured, which is completely illegal. They pack their warheads with glass and screws and lead shards and razor blades.
Poison.
Here's the thing. They don't have any respect for any rules of engagement. They're not expected to. There's no consequence for their actions. And nobody cares.
UN doesn't care.
No one gives a damn.
Right.
Excuse my language. And the point is, we're putting ourselves in danger, and we do, to protect civilians on the other side. Whether I'm for that or against that is really not for now. But they just don't give a damn. And the world, you're condemning us.
Right.
They're firing missiles from schools and hospitals and inside, courtyards in Gaza from houses. And we're going there to foot to try not to hurt the civilians, and we get condemned. And the truth of the matter is, Baruch, I'll tell you, the truth of the matter is, I'm very cynical when it comes to world politics. I really don't care what the world says. Not because I don't have respect for them. Look, 6 million of us were burning and being gassed, and the world stayed silent. So with all due respect to the world, I really couldn't give a damn. I don't, and we're not out there to fight wars. Israel does not want to fight a war. We're not looking for it to kill people. But what you, world, didn't do 75 years ago to protect us, we're doing. And if you don't like it, too bad. It's too bad. Really, we're not. Anyone who thinks that Israel's looking for war, do me a favor. You're either terribly ignorant or you're an anti-Semite. End of story.
Got it. All right, let me go to another issue. You spoke quite emotionally on Shabbos about the shrapnel and how that impacted greatly on your life.
We think that we're going to live till 120 years old. And everything's going to be hunky-dory and fine, and we expect that to happen. So we go to work, and we go to this and that, and, we behave like we're only 120. If we only knew that life is not guaranteed to 120, we'd have a much happier life.
It's true.
When this thing blew through my bag, I didn't know about it. I didn't know what happened. And this is a piece of apparently a missile. It blew through my vest. All the water bottles, are gone, and all the things in my backpack were destroyed. And the medic, reached under my vest and pulled this thing out. This thing should have blown me into pieces. I mean, not cut me in half and killed me. It should have blown me into pieces.
When you say the water was, liquid was...
So I thought it was water.
Liquid was flowing...
So I thought it was blood.
I thought it was blood.
But everything in my backpack was destroyed. And this was in the beginning of the war. He ripped this out of my backpack, and I kept it. Look, it was a very scary experience. It was a blessing because you learn to appreciate things in life.
I assume you benched Gaimel and afterwards, and maybe even did a Seuda to thank God for the saving your life.
It was very, very difficult.
You were how many inches away from death?
It wasn't inches. It should have blown through me. It was blown through my bag. It was very hard to contemplate afterwards. I really couldn't focus so much afterwards. I went to learn yeshiva a little bit too.
Did you experience what's commonly referred to as PTSD with soldiers who go through traumatic experiences?
IDF soldiers don't like to become victims. So I don't want to call it PTSD. I don't think I have it. People say I do. I don't sleep, but big deal. I never slept before anyway. But you hear a siren, you hear an explosion. You turn. You don't jump from fear. You want to go towards the danger. You want to run towards the danger to be the first to try to take out the threat. So that's the kind of experience that IDF soldiers have. In other words, it's called in Hebrew chatira lamaga.
What does that mean? It
means to run towards in order to have contact. To run towards the threat, to be there first.
To take control.
To be by the threat. So chatira lamaga in the army is when you see something, you run towards the threat and you actually try to have contact with the threat. To try to. So that's embedded in me. I hear a siren, I run towards the siren. I run towards the explosion.
Let me ask you.
This is the big thing.
Sorry.
When I'm talking again fundraising, in America, I'm horrible at it, right? Because I'm not asking.
You're
for
pretty
money.
good at it, but
I want you to experience it. I want you to understand. You're not giving them support. You're
giving myself support. Is that correct?
It's an emotional thing. It's like I want you to understand. I want you to feel a little bit what we're feeling, what we're going through.
If I were to go to Israel, you would take me to a front line and explain to me and introduce me to IDF soldiers.
So one of several things I do is, number one, people come to Israel, they want to go on a tour with me to different areas of where terrorist attacks happen. I take them there, things that I've even been on call for. And then, of course, standing together, we take people out to soldiers. They come out and they feed the soldiers, and on the truck we have pancakes and ice cream and whatnot. So we want people to experience it. So, when people say to me, I want to donate, it's not, oh, good, I got some money. It's they understand.
I understand.
That to me is something that's really important.
Let me ask you a politically charged question. You remember years ago, Gilad Shalit was an Israeli soldier. He was captured by, I believe, Hezbollah. And no, it was in Gaza. I'm sorry.
Hezbollah was the other guys.
The three other soldiers who were
the reason why we went into Lebanon.
Right. And there was an exchange. You as an Israeli soldier, how do you feel about? Do you have any thoughts about the Gilad Shalit incident?
So, the Gilad Shalit incident is a very sensitive issue for me. I'm very happy Gilad is home. Of course, you have to separate this. You see, if we're emotional, we lose. So of course I'm happy Gilad is home. The reason it's sensitive to me is because the four terrorists, animals, who murdered Yoshua Friedberg in 1993 were all set free.
Ooh.
And
wow.
For me it was like, and they didn't tell us. I saw their names in the newspaper.
Did you have a Charles Bronson death wish where you wanted to go and, pay them a visit?
Since they were caught.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to pull the trigger. Again, they don't deserve to live. My personal opinion, by the way,
But you didn't act on it, but you felt you had that
they
desire.
don't deserve to live, not only because I want revenge, which I do, by the way, but because they're just going to hurt other Jews or other people. So I would tell you that, my personal ideological, political view is no terrorist should ever survive their own attack. They should be confirmed killed on the spot. And by the way, the IDF policy is that, by the way. There's a terrorist threat, you're supposed to confirm the kill. We can go into the Zaria case in a couple of minutes, but the point is, when I saw those names, my heart was like, are you kidding with me? And I called Herb up and I said, Herb, I don't want you to hear this. Yoshua's father, I don't want you to hear this in the news, in the media. And obviously he had some very nasty words.
Choice words, I'm sure.
It's not moral. It's perverted morality.
And how does that translate? While you're a soldier in a unit, you've got the Gilad Shalit debacle floating over your head. How does this impact with you and your fellow soldiers, your fellow Chayalim?
So I'll tell you something that we did. I'm not so comfortable, providing, but I'll tell you what we did. And I want everyone to understand, this is not about me having, again, some kamikaze. It's not about that. Again, we have a strong will to live. We, as soldiers, our safety, our security comes last. It doesn't even come last. It doesn't come at all. The only safety that we worry about is that we can continue fighting and protecting wherever we have to protect. And this is not special about me. Baruch, this is really important to understand. I really don't want credit. I'm not being modest. I don't. There are hundreds of thousands of men and women who are in the same predicament as I am. So they're all the same things. This is not personally about me, and I really want people to understand that. We don't want this to happen. I would not want personally this to happen to me. I wouldn't want 1,000 guys, monsters, who 85% went back to terrorism to be released from me. So our units,
Hold on, just to summarize, you would never want to be captured or used as a political pawn for the release of terrorists in exchange. Is that what you're saying?
Look.
Correct?
Yes, I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
Judaism says that when you're getting people out of captivity, there's a law in Judaism, and it says if the price is too much, meaning if more people are going to be hurt by the people, you don't get them out by anything. It's called blackmail, and it's very dangerous. Again, I'm repeating this. Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, I want to live to 120 and see my great-great-grandchildren. Okay?
God willing.
You have to understand what I'm saying, because I don't have a death wish. I would never want to be used as a political pawn to let terrorists be released from jail. End of story, nothing to spoken
And
about.
how could you stop it if you are?
Well, if we give our how do I put that?
What if, God forbid, you are captured?
I don't want. So, I don't call it deposition. I don't know what you call it. We made it very clear that if
your platoon,
several guys in my platoon, that if we're ever captured, we do not want any release. You get us out by Israel, Entebbe, right? Yoni Netanyahu. We flew over to Entebbe, across Africa, to get Jews out of just get that guts back up. Stop with it. We can't do it. We can do it, and we should be doing it. And that idea, we have to have victory. Get me out by operations. Do not let terrorists out.
you would be prepared, theoretically, rather than be a pawn to release an Arab terrorist, you would be prepared to stay in captivity.
Yes.
Wow.
As a soldier, we're not there to, my comfort and it's not me, all soldiers. And we hate politics.
And how do your wives feel about that? Is this an area I could ask you about?
You can ask. Look, the truth of it is, I don't know how my wife handles this, because I say it as a joke. Either she's, Miriam, my wife, who I love dearly, either she's really cool or she doesn't love me. I think I know she's really cool.
She's very cool.
She's really cool. The truth of the matter is that I don't know how she handles it. I think being in the field is much easier than being at home. I'll tell you a short anecdote. We got back to Tel Chai in the north when we got back from Lebanon. When I left, I said to her, honey, I love you and I love the kids. Please just daven for us. It was very scary. We crossed over the border. It's gone. No family. Everything's gone. You have the operation. You have what you got to do. And, without that, you can't fight. When I got back, so I picked up my cell phone. They gave back to us. And I said, honey, we're home. We're in Tel Chai. As I'm on the phone with my wife, 6 or 8 missiles hit the parking lot in Tel Chai. I think 8 guys were killed. They're not from my unit. And the phones went dead. I mean, I can't even imagine what she's going through. You know what I'm saying? But she's, when I left to Lebanon, I was packing my bags up. My wife says to me, oh, relax. Where do you think you're going? Lebanon? I said, honey, actually, yes. She's like, oh, it'll be okay. I'm like, who are you? So thank God. I wouldn't be able to do this without, and she knows that this is part of me. So she doesn't let me go. She sends me with a smile. I can't imagine, what's inside. I hope she's okay. I think she is, but amazing.
Okay, so let's wrap up a little before we get to the finale.
We got 24 people on. Welcome, everyone. Invite your friends and family. And
share this interview with everyone who can see this.
I don't do this often, and it's a little bit, boom. You know what they say, so...
thank you for your courage and your willingness to open up about this. But, you have a clear passion and a fire about you, about the IDF. There's an element of selflessness to you. And when you talk about giving something for the Chayalim, something as basic as a cup of coffee and a piece of chocolate, you get incredibly animated. You have this truck that you are now currently fundraising for, which seems to be the epicenter of your fundraising efforts right now. Tell me about what this truck is, what it does, and why it's so critical to what you're doing.
So, Standing Together, the organization that I helped run, David Landa started it 23 years ago. It's not a job for me. It's my oxygen. It's therapy for me. When I come and fundraise and I don't raise what I'm supposed to be raising, it hurts. It doesn't hurt because of my job. It hurts because all I want to do is, and this is really, and it sounds like, what's the word? Cliches. All I want to do is help the guys in the men and women in uniform. That's where I am. It's all I care about. Israel and the men and women in uniform. So when I don't raise the funds, I'm upset. I'm not upset that people didn't give me the money. I'm upset because I'm upset. I want to get this done. With the truck, it's a double whammy. Herb Friedberg, Yeshua's father, who I'm very, very close with, almost a son, Herb, I hope you don't mind me saying that. Families are crushed. They're crushed, and I've experienced this as a friend. I'm crushed, so when I talk about it, I can't finish the sentences, On Memorial Day, I fall apart. That siren goes off, and I'm gone. I'm gone.
It's Yisker.
It's hard. It's a heart wrencher. Not for me. Every family in Israel, it's like that. I was a friend. So when
you plan on dedicating this truck to
I told
Yeshua's
Herb, I got a
memory?
great idea. Yeshua Friedberg, just to understand, he was a giver, and I'm not saying he was killed. He was a giver. He went to other soldiers' funerals. He volunteered throughout the army service. He was just a giver. He became religious on his own. He brought his family back. He was just a giver. He always was giving in the army. He was volunteering. And we knew about it. We knew about it, even when he was a soldier. So when I told her about this idea about this truck where it's got a built-in pizza oven, a pretzel machine, a slushy machine, espresso machine, freezer, fridge, room for stuff and we drive out the soldiers. It's going to get to 15 to 2,000 soldiers a day.
So that we're clear, you're not just a catering truck in downtown Los Angeles.
No.
We're talking about soldiers who are stationed who are starving, or
no. Hold on. The IDF gives. I don't want to get killed. The IDF gives soldiers whatever they need. Okay, and even if we don't get what we need, we'll fight in our underwear. So they're not missing anything. We're not a poor army. Let's not go there.
Right. I just want to clarify what are you giving these soldiers?
When I came out of Lebanon and we were destroyed physically, emotionally, mentally, we collapsed on the border, and this Jeep and trailer comes flying up. Where you have the brochure here somewhere. I just want to show you the Jeep and trailer, what it looks like. You know, I don't know if you can see it. You see that? You see the Jeep and trailer right there? They were pulling out ice cream and drinks and water and letters. It really put everything back for us. We were really, you can't imagine what it did for us.
You were days, if not weeks, without any shower or fresh food or nothing, and
we came out dehydrated beyond belief. And
right.
The support that came just saved us. It really did, and we're giving them a thank you, appreciation of people around the world. You can't understand what
So maybe capture that one final thought. What happens when a chayal is stationed at the border and sees that truck come up? What goes through their mind? You want to share this machshava and thought with your followers.
I'll be honest with you. And the funny thing is, not only from Jews, we had Christians also. I will tell you personally, when he came to the border with us, I said to him, "Who is this from?" And he says, "Here, read these letters." He went, opened up the truck. He was making fresh pancakes on the truck and ice cream. I picked up a letter. It says, "Dear IDF soldier, know that we love you and we support you. We're behind you." And as an American, I know that we have support from America. I was reading to the Israeli guys. They were tearing. Like, to know that people are actively supporting. So this new truck that we're trying to raise money, it's $180,000. For me, it's closure. I told her, he smiled.
Gets it.
For me, to see Yoshua's face on that truck, for me, it would be like, I can't express it. And you know what the problem is? There'll be like, I don't know how many people will see this video, thousands. If everyone would donate even $18, $100, would cover it in a second, And I don't like saying, why won't you donate? The link's up above. And really, it's $180,000 to get this truck on the road. My dream, my fantasy is to have it paid for and have a huge ceremony. Have Herb Friedberg there, cutting that ribbon, seeing the truck, with Yeshua's name on it. For me is, I can't even express it. I mean,
Let's part on that note, because that's really the reason why we're here, why we're talking, why we're fundraising, why you're collecting, why our supporters on Facebook and our followers should make a contribution, why they should share this video, share it with your hundreds of contacts. Just by merely sharing it, you're advancing the appeal, and you're giving new life to standing together. And it's a proud thing. I'm proud to support it. I'm proud that my friends have supported it. I'm proud that my shul is supporting it. And I'm proud that everyone that's watching this video is stepping up to take the time to hear your story.
I really appreciate it.
And it's very courageous of you again, and I'm proud to consider you a friend. And next time I'm in Israel, I'm expecting a tour to the border, but I also want a bulletproof vest just to be on the safe side,
I just want to say a couple more things. First of all, those around the world, I'm going to Australia tonight. The biggest thing to get connected. So I travel the world a lot, and I do speak about the IDF and talk about different experiences. So I'm always setting new. So wherever you are, if you want to get something done there and really want to get people to understand, invite me out. Let's do this in your area. Also, I want to explain to everyone that if you want to make if you want your name to be on the truck with Yeshua, so you want to make a big donation. So we are tax deductible in America using the Central Fund of Israel. If you want to send checks in, please do be in touch with me. I'll give you the name and the address where to send it in for tax deductible donations. And again, I don't do this often, so I want to thank everyone for being here, and please do share it out. And I want to, Baruch Cohen, again, there are guys in the field and there are guys out here around the world who are defending Israel. It's not a given that a person in professional life would be defending Israel. And attorneys for the defense of Israel, there it is right there. And move it a little closer so you can actually see it. So we have the website again is attorneysdefendingisrael.blogspot.com. If you want to get information, which you help fight for Israel, check out the website. We'll put it on in a couple of minutes. And Baruch, thank you.
And connect with us on Facebook, which is a great way. And Ari, again, kol hakavod litzahal, and you are a hero. Take it.
Take it. No, really. I'm not kidding. I don't like it. I'm not.
All right. We're going to be nice. We're going to be nice. You're a good friend. You're a good friend to know. And if I'm ever in the army, I know that you're a brother, and I know what that means. And lots of love to you. And
right back at you.
Safe trips. Safe travels, everybody. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Take care.